What's up everyone? In this quick video I wanted to share a method that you can use to more quickly assign materials to your geometry that comes from the Houdini engine into Unreal Engine. So the idea for this kind of a tool came to me when I wanted to quickly assign some materials to my porch, which is basically thing that I'm working on the next video for the procedural building. So I'm going to include porches, and I also wanted to quickly assign some materials to see them how they look inside Unreal Engine. But the problem is that I'm not really sure what kind of materials I'm going to use them. And I wasn't really interested in recreating these materials inside Houdini since I'm not going to use them inside Houdini. So what I have here is I have just went ahead and used the import tool. I have imported the geometry, so this is not a baked geometry, so we could bake. You can see we have all of these materials on this porch, and we can just go ahead and start dragging them out. So the problem with this method is that uh, we actually have to go ahead and give it a real path to the material that already exists inside Unreal Engine to assign them correctly. And if it's not, it's going to assign this to Houdini default material. If it's not there. And since I'm not really sure which materials I'm going to use, what the idea is to assign basically a generic material for each one of these slots that I assign this geometry to. And the idea is that I'm taking this Houdini default material that is actually comes with the Houdini Engine when you install the plugin inside Unreal Engine. And what you can do is just go ahead and start duplicating this material. And what I have here, since I know that I have 10 or 11 different materials on this static mesh, I have just went ahead and copied this default material a bunch of times. And now each one of these materials can be used as a reference inside Houdini to actually go ahead and reference it. And then when I import the geometry, then each one of these materials is actually going to be assigned to it, and then I can just override it easily with materials which I am testing out. So let's go ahead and try this out. And this default material is actually very simple. You can see that it actually just goes ahead and assigns a vertex color. And this vertex color can actually be sent from Houdini, and we can actually differentiate different slots with this vertex color. So let's take a look at this also. So I have made sure that I have copied this material a bunch of times, and just go ahead and press Control Duplicate, and by default it's going to just append another index at the end of the material. So this is by default only thing that you have to do is this. So I have a bunch of materials. Let's go ahead inside Houdini. Let's take a look at this setup. So for this setup, I have this new HDA node that I'm actually also going to provide for you in my next video about the procedural building for my procedural building tool update, which I'm going to basically make porches and more Unreal integration. And for the Unreal integration, this is one of the HDAs, which is called multi-Unreal material. So we know that we have a Unreal material node, which is a very basic, just a setup for the already created Unreal material attribute, and we just have to write our relative reference. So this is very slow way of assigning materials, and we also have to give it a material that we already know which we want to assign. So in this case, basically since all of my geometry is assigned, how I like to set up my geometry is by primitive groups. So at the end of it, each one of these primitive groups has been assigned name, unique name for all of these parts, in which I'm going to use. I'm using primitive groups to assign it individual materials that I have went ahead and duplicated inside Unreal Engine. And the way it works, it's pretty simple. So first of all, we have to provide our default material path. So this path is going to be already, so this should be basically the same for every time when you install plugin inside Houdini. This material path shouldn't really change, and that's why I have put it as a default string material path. And also the HDA assumes that you just go ahead and control D on this material to duplicate it a bunch of times to make sure that the automatic adding of index is going to work. So I'm going to clear this out. So now that all I have to go ahead and press autofill. And the autofill is going to run a Python script. It's going to take each one of these primitive groups, take them, assign them to the group, and then assign it its Unreal Material attribute. And the only difference is that this Houdini default material is going to be appended index in basically increased index to select a new material. So this is a reason why we are getting all of these element selection options inside Unreal Engine. After we have set up Unreal Material attribute, what I'm doing is I am converting the every primitive group into a name attribute, and then I just run it for each loop. And what you can do is assign a color, since I showed that a shader uses actually the vertex color, and if you're not using a vertex color for anything else, just to visualize the slot, just to visualize. So it's going to be basically, if you know the gradient of this one, so you know that at first comes the black color, so that you know that the first slots are going to be a darker color. So I can see from this visualization that the first slot inside here, inside these material slots, is going to be this part of the porch. Since this is the black one, it's going to come first. And then the white one is going to be, the last one is going to be roof or something else. So you can assign whatever colors you want, but once you have done that, you can just go ahead and save the geometry, and let's re-import. So one thing to note that this is not permanent, it's going to be just for visualization sake. And once you're happy with your materials, you actually want to go ahead and copy the real values of these materials, real references to the real material that you want to use, and use them inside this multi-Unreal material D slot, or use the Unreal material attribute Unreal material node to actually set up the actual material, because this is just permanently, and if you recook your geometry that comes from the Unreal Houdini Engine, is going to basically delete all of your setup. So this is just for the visualization and quickly testing out your material. So now that I know that I have updated it, I just go ahead and going to reload this geometry. So recook it, and you can see that we have recooked it, and we have also our vertex colors. You can see these are not very great because of the grays are not very visible inside here. So you can add something like go without lighting setup. You can see without lighting, you can see a little bit more the setup. And what's cool about this, you can just go ahead and start assigning your materials. So my materials are somewhere, buildings, materials. So this is just a bunch of materials I have. You can just go ahead and start drag these materials, and you can see it's very easily going to be assigned. So you can just start playing around by dragging some of these materials in, see what you like more. So I like this one. Let's take a look at the next one. So for the floor, I actually like this floor also. And these are all material instances, so you can just go ahead and adjust how you want them. So these meshes, I want kind of like this color. I actually like this one. For the next one, so it's the post. The post can also be like that. So let's take a look at the next one. This painted wood, I actually like this one also. The railing, both of these. So that you can keep that. And then the roof. Actually, that's fine. You can see we can very easily apply materials to entire mesh just by dragging them and by separating them by their slots. And remember that this is just temporarily. So now that you like your look on the material from the Unreal Engine, you have to go ahead and copy the references from here. And just you have to know which slot is. There's probably option for you to copy the. So probably easiest is to press on this folder and just copy the reference that way, and then set it up inside, and then paste it inside under multi-material node. And let me quickly go through the script that is being run when you press on the autofill button. It's actually pretty simple. So first of all, we have our regular expression, and the regular expression is going to extract the last part of the relative reference string that is expected when you press on the copy reference from Unreal Engine, and basically this is the same string. And if you take a look at this inside regex 101, I have copied this string, and you can see that it's going to extract the last part of it with the optional apostrophe. So sometimes sometimes it doesn't appear, or you just forget to add it. So I have added this question mark that is actually apostrophe is actually optional. So, but by default, there shouldn't really be any problem because Unreal Engine also always gives this apostrophe. But it should work either way, with or without it at the end of it. So what we have here is we get our material name, then we then we search for the dot, and then the material name again. And this is just a regular expression that we use to extract data. And then the actual script is being run from this autofill function. Let's take a look at it. So first of all, we give it our Quark dictionary. We get reference to our node. Then we get our primitive groups. So this is interesting. The easiest way I have found out that to get all the primitive groups is actually by getting the parameter value inside Python to actually get the parameter value that uses the expression. And if you take a look at this, so this parameter is actually hidden for this HDA. So you take a look at these show invisible parameters and press on uncheck invisible and applied. So you can see in this parameter actually just by default it uses the prim group list function that lists all the primitive groups of the incoming geometry. So this is the group of all the primitive groups that we can use. We just separate them by the white space to get all of these values, primitive groups. Then we go ahead and get the then we split it right at the start. And then we get the number of groups. So then we go ahead and get some parameter, assign material multi-parameter, which reference to this multi-parameter that is dynamic based on a number of primitive groups. Then we also get our default material path, basically this parameter that's going to be base for the renaming them, right? Then we have our material name. Then we go ahead and get our so the material name. We just search we use our regular expression to search our default material path for the match string, which is basically this part. Basically, we extract this part from the reference string. And then then we just want to continue if there are primitive groups. We go ahead and set our multi-parameter at the very start. So it is going to start basically increase to however many primitive groups you have. Then we just go ahead and use the enumerate to run through each one of these. We use the index to make sure that since the first reference for the material is already correct, we do not want to add any index to the first instance, to the first material reference attribute that we're going to set. So in this case, we use if the index is 0, we set our default material path and that's it. But if it's not, we have to do a little bit more options. So because if it's not, we want to go ahead and add our index to the first and this to the first part of the for the first part of the material name before dot and after it. So you can see that there's a 1 and 1 at the strings that we extracted using the regular expression. And if it's actually pretty simple, we go ahead and get our material index, material name index. We're using our material name. We get our group material name, which is the group that we set up from our regular expression. And then we just go ahead and use the append to this name a current index converted integer to string value. And after that, we go ahead and use it 2 times, basically because we want to, the same name is used before and after the dot. We just use a join function on the dot. It's going to combine them basically 2 times together. And then we just go ahead and use the regular expression .sub, which basically replaces our regular expression match string with our new material name index. Basically with the same string, only with the index added at the end of it. And that's basically it. We use this path parameter to set its value to that parameter. And this is how it's actually very straightforward. We have appended a unique name for each one of these. So this is basically, we can use whatever the default material we want, and it's going to append these indexes correctly. So this tool basically assumes that you just went ahead and duplicated the default material, whatever material you use, to many times, so that you can use basically just duplicate a bunch of time because of the automatic naming that Unreal Engine applies to new materials. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So I'm going to work on this video, on my next video about the purchase and more Unreal integration. It's also going to be part of my current stuff that I sell for procedural building, so they're going to be all part of it. So yeah, hope you learned something today, and see you next time.